Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today on more of a serious note after the discovery of a case of BSE in a California dairy cow earlier this week. The news had an impact on cattle markets. More on that shortly. But first, here's Extension veterinarian Dr. Dave Sparks.
Typically, BSE is transmitted by cattle eating feed where mammalian tissue has been used for a protein supplement. And that practice of putting mammalian tissue in feed has been illegal here since approximately the middle 90s. Well, it turns out it is BSE, that it's a very, very rare form called atypical Bovine Spongiform Encephalopathy. So the difference is it has nothing to do with the ingestion of mammalian protein. It didn't come from eating feed. Nobody violated that restriction. It's a dairy cow in California. This cow never entered the food chain because she never even got to a typical harvest facility. Here in America, we have a law that any cow that's down or showing central nervous system signs can't enter a slaughter facility where they're preparing food for human consumption. So this case was actually found at a rendering plant. That operator was knowledgeable enough to know that he couldn't sell that cow and called the rendering truck.
Joining me now to talk about the market reaction is Derrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. Derrell, we talked earlier this week and we were expecting kind of a quiet week for the markets, but obviously Tuesday the news came out and everything changed.
You know, USDA announced Tuesday afternoon that we had this fourth case of BSE. By Tuesday, by the close of the futures trading on Tuesday, those markets were limit down for live cattle and for feeder cattle, largely because rumors had been running around earlier in the day prior to the official announcement. And so the market reacted to a lot of uncertainty that day. But by Wednesday morning, we already started to see recovery. And as we move through the end of the week, it looks like this is going to pass very quickly. Most of the reaction was only in the futures market, which is where it should be, really. No impacts really on the cash markets, no indications that there's any real change in the underlying real market that we have today.
So why don't we see more of a reaction as compared to previous cases?
I think a lot of things are different from 2003 when we had the first case. You know, the first one is we know a lot more about the disease now, and we've had safeguards in place for a number of years to make sure that this is nothing that's being perpetuated incidentally by feed and all those. We have the feed ban in place. We remove specified risk materials. This is just a case that's going to happen occasionally where this atypical or spontaneous case occurs in an animal. Our surveillance system worked to identify that animal. It was never in the food supply. So there's no reason for a market reaction, although it's hard to know sometimes whether there'll be a reaction even when there really is no reason for one.
All right, now let's talk about trade. Of course, in the past, we've had people ban U.S. imports. What are we seeing happening from this case?
You know, again, the biggest impact from 2003, the one that took years to recover from, was on the trade side. We lost access to those markets. But again, we've learned so much globally about this disease. Countries have established risk factors to evaluate each other. The U.S. participates in that. So we have a recognized risk status that is recognized globally. And, you know, our major trading partners have all said this doesn't change, and according to the protocol, should not change our risk status relative to BSE. So there's no change in market access. I think we've had one case of a very minor export market. Indonesia indicated that they were going to temporarily halt to beef imports from the U.S., but it's a tiny, tiny market. All of our major markets have said no problems in terms of access to those markets.
Okay, so at the end of the day, would we count this as a win for the U.S. system?
Well, I think it's a win given that these things are going to happen sometimes. Obviously, it would be nicer if they didn't happen, but it is going to happen occasionally. And so we have a system in place. The system worked well in terms of finding the issue. It didn't create any health risks, nothing that should cause concern. So yes, it is a win in that we can have an event like this and have such a limited reaction, and we'll move forward and very quickly pass this from the scene.
All right, so broader view beyond this event, where's the market sitting right now?
You know, again, we talked about the other day that markets are kind of looking for a sense of direction. We continue to see box beef bounce back from the lows it had just a week or two ago, having dropped pretty dramatically over the last month or 6 weeks. I think this market is stabilizing. I think it's finding some footing, and we're going to move forward from here. We still have questions about demand. I think that's the real key for the rest of, for the coming weeks and going into the summer is, do we have the kind of demand that will support the prices that are out there? Margins are still being squeezed because we haven't seen the wholesale and retail values come up enough to match the high prices we have for feeder and fed cattle. But this market will move forward, and really we're keeping our eye on demand probably more than anything else.
All right, good information as always, Derrell Peel. And if you'd like more information on BSE, visit the SUNUP website, sunup.okstate.edu, and click on links.